temperatures, and we finally got half of the air conditioning system that we didn't know was not functioning. And what happens is, I don't know about for you, but certainly for Glenn and I, almost everybody, our own little systems are different. And so for Glenn and I, almost always, if we're in the house, she said, "Are you hot?" I said, "I'm sweating." She's got a sweatshirt on. She's cold. I mean, we're just different. And so in here, what we try to do is we had our air conditioning installers come out and say, "Okay, set it." Everybody is different because our bodies act and burn fuel differently, blah, blah. And so what we mentioned is that if you're cold, ladies bring a little sweater. If anybody's really cold, I'm told we got some light blankets here. If you're going to be a popsicle, we'll warm you right up. 2 people here will probably be just the right temperature. And some will be a little bit too warm, and you got a fan. I mean, they make these, you don't have any up here. Tom Burrell had an industrial-sized fan. I mean, you get these battery-operated things, blow the hair off the kid in the next pew if you need it. But anyway, we're just here to serve God. It's a joy to be together. And this lesson came because of somebody's comment, said, how do you deal with your mind when you're trying to get your mind to here's the right attitude and thing, and the other part of it's arguing with you? And so I've entitled this lesson, Developing Inner Strength. I came across this runner, Derek Redmond. He's an Olympic runner. And in this situation, in 1992, in the Barcelona Olympics, of course, they have all these different distances they run. This particular event was 400 meters. So you picture a racetrack, Olympic-sized track, and one time around. This is not a marathon. Boom, you're out of the blocks, and you go as fast as you can one time around the track. It's a sprint. And he was favored to win. And so what I've done, is I've only done this a couple of times in 50 years, but I embedded a clip. The clip is going to be of this guy's race. You say, why would you do that? Because the Apostle Paul uses that kind of analogy. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 24 through 27, he said, all run in a race, and one receives the prize. Somebody's going to come in first, somebody's going to come in last. The same kind of analogy is used in Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 and 2. That fixing our eyes on Jesus, let us run the race with endurance. Now, this is not just for, hey, here's an interesting race. It is. It's one of the Olympic greatest races, and the idea is don't give up. Because what happens is sometimes we fall down and say, yeah, but now what should I do? And so here we go. In 1992, some people won't be able to read it, Barcelona Olympics. A young man was favored to win the 100-meter race. He thought he was good physically and mentally. His name, Derek Redmond, running for Great Britain. The gun sounds, and he's in the blue trunks in the middle lane, 5, and you can see him go around the track. And the score, the time stamp is on the lower right. It's a 43 or 4 second race, but tragedy struck at the 250-meter mark. He heard a pop. He thought it was in the stands, but then he felt the pain. And you see him fall behind and then fall down to the track. His hamstring broke. He hobbled to a halt and then down to the ground in excruciating pain. As medics started to rush to him, he had to decide, what do I do now? Do I get up and run, or do I stay down? He got up and he ran. That as he pushed off on his left leg, and just tried to tap his right. Despite the pain, he rose, hobbling. He pushed on. And he continues. And he continues. This is a real race. Suddenly a man rushed onto the track, pushing against the security. It was his father in the blue trunks. And he catches up with his son. Security tries to stop him. He said, "This is my son." The father said, "You don't have to do this." And the son said, "Yes, I do." He said, "Well then, we'll finish this race together." And he helped him across the finish line. Others tried to help. Father waved him off. "This is my son. We're fine." And as they crossed the finish line, the son's body wounded, but his spirit was not broken. He may not have finished first, but he crossed the finish line to a standing ovation that was greater even than the one that ran the race. And life can seem like we're sometimes in a race. We feel rushed, sometimes competitive. There may times we feel utterly broken. The question is, what do we do? God knows. And he rushes to you, but we must allow him to wrap his arms around us. What aches do you bear? What's crippling you? What burdens you? Lay them down before God and leave them there. And God simply asks for strength to accomplish what he has given you to do. Think about that. As we look at this man, this is Derek Redmond, voted one of the official best motivational speakers in 2025. He was asked, "How do you become successful?" And he said, "You get up one more time than you're knocked down." So if you're knocked down 1,000 times, he said you get up 1,001. And if you're knocked down 1,000,000 times, you get up 1,000,001. And when you get up as if it's your last time. Proverbs 24:16 says, "A righteous man falls 7 times and rises again." What's the message? You don't ever give up. What can outlast that? And so I want to share this thought along this line of how do you develop that kind of inner strength? My parents never talked to me about it. Maybe I wasn't open to it. Maybe they never thought about it. But it just never came up. But as a young man, I looked at others and I thought, I want to understand those principles. And if you would put a few thoughts together, Paul, what would you say? Well, number one, if you want to develop inner strength, determine what your goal is. The person says, well, I don't know, I just kind of drift around. Well, then, there you go. You'll just kind of drift around and you'll hit exactly what you're aiming for, which is nothing. And so as you start out to say, well, what's your goal? In 1 Peter 1:13, and the last third of it says, fix your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. You want to be successful. You want to be strong. Figure out what your goal is. That's what I want to do. Well, Paul, don't you want to be a deep sea diver? No. Do you want to be a mountain climber? No. Would you like to be, you have a son-in-law as a farmer. You want to be a farmer? No. What do you want to do? I'm doing exactly what I want to do. And in that realm, I want to be a strong person. I looked to men that I thought were strong, and I said, here's their quality. Here's how they do that. In Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 10, Apostle Paul encouraged believers in Ephesus, a major commercial city. And he said, be strong in the Lord, in the strength of his might. I wanted to be that kind of person. And so if you were to talk to young people and say, how do you go about it? You determine if that's your goal. If you say, oh no man, I just want to sit on a dock of the bay. And, well, people have that. I just want to smoke weed. Well, people do. But that wasn't my goal. I want to get to heaven. I want my family to get to heaven. I want you to get to heaven. And I want to get there and be a strong person on the way. Well, how do you develop that inner strength? Well, certainly you set a goal and then set your mind for action. I like this picture of the runner. It just kind of blurs. I mean, they're going someplace. And we noted 1 Peter 1:13, see the third part of the verse. I want to notice the first part. He said, set or prepare your minds for action. If you want to get whatever it is done, you want to finish your school, you want to raise your kids or build a house or advance in your profession, you want to grow as a Christian, it can't just be, well, I've been waiting for it to fall on me. I don't know how that works. Autumn leaves fall on you if you stand in one place long enough, but generally that's not going to be the height of our life. You say, what is it I want to do? Once you figure that out, say, am I prepared to do it? And if the answer is no, then change where you want to go because you're not going to get there by accident. Passage I like is Daniel chapter 1 and verse 8. Daniel made up his mind. He said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Whether it's education or health or social or whatever it is, you determine it's going to cost effort, money, time, something, but I'm determined that's what I want to do. Daniel 11:32, and those that know their God will display strength and take action. I don't know about you. I have a tendency, I like the idea of procrastinating. Well, just kind of put it off and sooner or later, it becomes later. And so you have to determine, if I were to take action, what do I need to do next? A lot of times it's make a call or send a letter, get advice, start the project. It can be an academic project. For students, a term paper or whatever it is. It's so hard, and the people put it off. If it's around the house and fixing things, most of the time it feels like it's bigger than it really is. And it may be somebody else just has, well, there's the answer to that. Ben Cordoba wanted to fix his fence. I looked out, man, the posts are great. He said, I can put the stuff in between. Our own porch had, for the rainwater and whatnot, had begun to dip down on one side. And our nephew, Craig Miser, came out, background in construction. I thought, man, what do you got to do? Dig under it? We're going to have to put a 9-ton jack in the dirt, and how are you going to do that? And it's only so much room. He brought out a car jack, put it up, put a adjustable pier block and a saddle under it, job done. Wow. Because once you make up your mind, I want to do that, then you said, okay, now it's time for action. When am I? You determine the project, the step by step, and get on with the program. One person said, it's not procrastination if you have no intention to do it. We've left the realm of, well, I mean to, I intend to. You're just kidding yourself and those round about you. The word now is used 2,000 times in the Bible. Today is used over 250 times. They're great Bible words. So you say, what do? You say, I've made up my mind. There's the goal. And I start now. Here's how I'm going to do that. You say, yeah, but there's so much to do. What do? You take one day at a time. I just like the beach because it kind of suggests kind of quietude. It's not the rush of traffic and school and all such as that. And that passage we're familiar with in Matthew chapter 6 and down in verse 34, he said, do not be anxious for tomorrow. Yeah, but how am I going to work that? And what if this doesn't work and that? And two people might say something and I don't know how to fix it. And he said, tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. I mentioned Jim Hester has become my keeper of great little sayings. And this one, he just kind of, I'll say, said by accident. I mean, it was just, we were trying to get some digital thing figured out a few years ago. And men were getting time to broadcast, and he's down there fixing it, and I'm winding tighter. And I said, Jim, are we going to have it ready in time? He said, we either will or we won't. And I went, well, that's right. And what it allows us to do, rather than somehow I have got to fix everything, it either is or it won't. Do I have to worry about it? That'll take care of itself. And there's times, because the whole digital universe collapsed or something, we weren't able to broadcast. Other times we will. Earth goes on. What if we take just today's challenges? Yeah, but tomorrow it might be that we'll handle those things tomorrow. One day at a time helps develop that inner strength rather than that inner anxiety. Well, how do you develop that inner strength? Well, you speak to yourself positively. Encourage yourself. I like this graphic. It's just a 3x5 card says I can't. And he's cutting off the apostrophe T. What does that mean? Well, I can. We look at ourselves, yeah, but I don't think I'm gifted enough or strong enough or wise enough or talented or good looking or something isn't enough. In 1 Samuel chapter 30 and verse 6, David encouraged himself in the Lord. It's great to be encouraged by others. But we can do that same job to a degree. Now, we argue with ourselves the other way. No, you're not. But we need to be willing to talk back to that inner voice that we have. And the one that we like in Philippians 4 and verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. How are you going to do it? We always get it done. Sometimes the schedule is a little tighter than maybe we wish, but it works out. God's got it figured out. My job is just do what God asks me to do and talk to myself in a positive way. One that I like, Ecclesiastes 2:24. There's nothing better than to eat and drink and tell yourself your labor is good. You've done a good job. One of the things I like doing is construction work, and have from my young years. But I'm really fussy, and I like all my corners to be exactly right and everything level. And there's nothing flawless in the physical world, just depending on how big a microscope you want to put under it. But is it good enough to do the job in a comparable way? And I'll just sit back and I say, that just feels good in a job well done. So it's not bragging if you're telling yourself, that's good. Keep up the good work, kiddo, and get on with the program. That's how you develop that inner strength, rather than talking yourself out of, it won't work and it'll turn out bad and somebody else is going to laugh at it and maybe it'll cost money, maybe I'll lose it, maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. I was asked just yesterday how you came to be a preacher, because I was trained in automotive mechanics. My journeyman's card was laying in the drawer of the HR, and so what did you do? I went, after 5 years training preaching, 4 years training for automotive, I said, yeah, but if you go into preaching, you might fail. if you stay in automotive, you do 10,000 jobs over and over and over again, and it's secure. I said, Paul, you won't know if you don't go. And so I walked through the doors and said, gentlemen, I'm leaving Puget Power, and the rest is history. And so the reality is you talk to yourself in a positive way. How do you develop that inner strength? Well, get adequate rest for your needs. I like this picture of a little Latina baby, just sweet as can be. Proverbs 3:24, when you lie down, you'll not be afraid, and your sleep will be sweet. Well, how do you have a good night's sleep? Some people don't sleep real well. And as the older you get, it tends to be even less so. I looked it up. Babies tend to sleep 12 to 16 hours a day. Toddlers, 11 to 14. Yours may be different. Teens, 8 to 10 hours a day. Adults, 7 to 9. I put the 7 in aqua because that's me. About 7 is, okay, fully charged, like the DeWalt battery for your drills and that. But everybody's different. Women often require a bit more than men, and Glenda a little bit more, and always has more than me. And so there's just a difference there. But there's also a challenge with a chronic loss in adequate sleep. High blood pressure, obesity, depression, immune and mental decline, all kinds of things. So we need to rest. And I thought about that. You say, well, what helps sometimes? And one is practice slow breathing. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, it's a 4-7. 4 seconds in, and do it by count. And then count. 7 seconds out. What's doing is you're slowing down your whole system. Your heart rate, everything is saying, it's okay. And then to clear your mind. Here's an interesting one where, I don't know about you, but I'll think about, I go to bed and bing, my mind is on overdrive. You know what? When I get up tomorrow morning, I need to remember A and B and C and D and E and F and G, and my mind is just percolating. And I said, okay, you got it all? I got it all, but what if I forget it during the night? I get up and say, oh, okay, enough of this, turn on the light, get out a little piece of paper, and I write the 5 things down. What do you do then? Put the pen down, turn out the light, and go to sleep. Well, I don't have to work at remembering all those things. And then finally, just along that line, relax your body. I tend to be wound up because I like being active most of the time. But when it comes time to shut down, if that body's still going, what do? You can relax your body one system or section at a time. Start with your face. You're laying there. You're breathing the 4-7 count, if that's the comfortable number for you. And it's, you feel yourself, I'm relaxing my eyebrows and my cheek muscles and my neck muscles. How about my shoulders and my arms? How about my torso, my abdomen, my thighs, down your leg, feet? Just, you're talking yourself through just relaxing. Imagine a peaceful scene. I go into medical dental offices and they want to take your blood pressure. I said, no use taking it one time, you got to take it twice. I get in a burp, okay, your blood pressure, whoa, that's really exciting. I said, give me a couple of minutes. I'm thinking to myself, okay, you're in Tahiti, you're laying in the hammock, and la, 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 la. And they say, oh, yeah, you're good. So you're just talking yourself into that comfortable, peaceful space. And everybody needs adequate rest. As a young preacher, I'd read a science fiction book, and it talked about, in this book, how people train themselves to need less and less sleep till they need none at all. How did that work for you? Not very well. I tried to go on 2 and 3 hours of sleep, and I mean, just a couple of weeks I'm sick and all that. And I had to go through that cycle probably, I'll say 5 times before I say, Paul, you're an idiot. The body is designed, flowers are designed to work that way. The body heals, restores, and renews itself during that process as part of your longevity mechanism. So how do you develop that inner strength? Prayer and putting it in God's hands. Philippians 4, 6, and 7 I came across in college, meant a ton to me. In nothing be anxious, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all comprehension, shall guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. That I've done the best I could, I've got my goals, I've decided to take action, and here's the steps I've taken in between, and I've done everything I can. Being stressed about it isn't going to solve it. David, when Absalom, his son, was trying to kill him, Psalm 3, 5, and 6 said, I lay down and slept. I awoke, for the Lord sustains me. I will not be afraid of 10,000 enemies who surround me. It just is what it is. We'll get through it. You go, how about that? Wow. So how do you do that? Well, ask God, put it in His care, and then express thankfulness. Some people suggest journaling. That is, they'll have a little notebook, and you just write down the blessings. Maybe if you have 14 a day. And just as I thought about them, I so much appreciate family. The peace that God gives that was not in the family into which I was born. Forgiveness, small joys, the smell of coffee, the taste of chocolate, hearing a baby's laugh, letting go of perfectionism, being loved, other people's kindness, hope, hot showers, laughter, autumn colors, prayer. All things work together for good. Because guess what? We're not very much in control of the universe. God is. Give it to Him and say, God, whatever you do is going to be okay with me. I'm going to be fine with that. So developing inner strength, feed your spirit daily. What if you say, I tell you what, I have good meals, and every once a week I have breakfast. That's it. How long do you suppose your physical body would do on one breakfast one time a week? Probably not. The same thing is with your spiritual body. If you say, well, I come here Sunday morning and that's it, rather than saying, that's just the start. In Matthew 4 and verse 4, Jesus said, man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Proverbs 6:22, when you walk about, they'll guide you, and when you sleep, they'll watch over you, and when you awake, they will talk to you. Here's the godly teaching maybe mom and dad gave. In Deuteronomy 17:18 and following, talking about how the king shall write for himself in a book a copy of this law. Ann Hoover had been a member with us and is now down in Salem. Talked to her just within the last couple of weeks. And she, among others, are writing copies of the New Testament books themselves. And I thought, wow, yeah, start in Matthew and Mark. And they said, no, you start wherever you want. Start with the short ones. I'd say Jude, Philippians. Start with the ones you like. And then maybe just do a few minutes a day. Because what's happening is you're putting that into your mind. You're chewing it up. As you write it down, it's becoming part of you. How do you develop that inner strength? Gain strength from the team. In Isaiah 41:10, do not fear, for I am with you. Do not look anxiously about you, for I am your God. I will strengthen you, I will help you, and surely I will uphold you. And the graphic suggests Ecclesiastes 4:12, two are better than one, and a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. You have people around about to help you. As I wanted to talk to the Lindberghs yesterday, talked to Diane, and she said, right now we're doing okay. They said if Vince felt well enough, he'd be at church, but he's really hurting. It's really tough for him. And she said, right now we don't need anything, but if he doesn't start an improvement, since she's watching over him and with him, they may in the future need help shopping. I said, man, I tell you what, I'm no kind of shopper, but I'm happy to go and shop, and I can find stuff and ask the store clerks what to do. And I said, I just want you to know, Diane, you're going to feel hesitant to ask. People are waiting and wanting to help. You just ask when you need it. We'd be glad to step in and do it. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. We encourage each other. We get better because of that. In Proverbs 13 and verse 20, walk with the wise and you'll be wise. So surround yourself with people that are positive, that want to do what God wants. They'll help you do that. If you say, well, I wonder how to do it, then ask them. Can I ask you a question? You seem really positive. How do you handle it when? And they'd be glad to help. So as we come down to the end, this lesson was developing inner strength, and I like the graphic, running the race, because that's where we started in 1 Corinthians chapter 9, 24 through 27. He said, run in such a way that you may win. Well, what are the principles that we looked at? Well, determine your goal. Then set your mind for action. I'm going to, and it's not someday or sooner or later, but right now. And as I do, I'm going to take each step in its time, every day, rather than worrying about the end of the project from the beginning. I'll speak positively to myself, encouragingly, get adequate rest. I'm really relying on God. I want to feed my spirit, and I'll gain strength from the team. That's how you do it. We're family. We do it together. And so if you're here this morning and you've not been baptized into Christ, and you say, I'd like to study about that. I'd like to learn God's word, because I want to learn to trust him. We're going to be singing this song, Trust and Obey. This is the song that was sung when I was baptized, and maybe a number of you as well. And so if you say, I'd like to learn more about God's word, Paul, would you study with us and help us however we can help? Maybe you want prayers. We'd be glad to do it. Let's be standing as we sing this invitation song. Brother Ben.
No, when we walk with